So there I was, sitting down watching the most recent PlayStation State of Play, getting excited for a lot of the games shown off. And then it finally happened. The long-rumored God of War 2D Metroidvania was not only revealed, but was shadow dropped. And the OG God of War Trilogy remake was announced. We'll see you in 2030 for that one. So after all the rumors and speculation, is God of War Sons of Sparta any good? After a year of speculation, rumors, and even an unofficial delay, the 2D Metroidvania God of War has finally arrived. And after rolling credits, I'm left feeling conflicted. I'm happy that this game was made and that Sony is allowing other studios to work on the God of War franchise, and with increasingly longer dev cycles, I think it's a great idea for PlayStation to work with other studios to bring smaller games to their big franchises while we wait for the next mainline Santa Monica game. That being said, I can't help but be a little disappointed in the end result that we received. Mega Cat Studios decided to take us all the way back to when Kratos was a boy, as he goes on a journey with his younger brother Deimos to find a lost Spartan cadet, sprinkled in with narration from Greek trilogy era Kratos telling the story to his daughter Calliope. The story being told is decent, maybe a little forgettable, but that tends to happen with spin-off and prequel stories. The characters all have voice acting, most of the time, more on that in a little bit, and it's all pretty solid. They even got Jack Quaid to voice the character Ace, and he does a great job. Then there's the art style, and it's hard to really critique art style. Some people are going to really dig the pixel art retro-inspired take, and others are going to think it's ugly. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think going into this game, I really was expecting to be blown away by the visuals, considering it's God of freaking War, and was hoping for a super stylized take on the franchise. Something similar to a Hades, but maybe I'm just thinking that because they both center around Greek mythology. After my initial disappointment, I started to accept the pixel art look and appreciated the locations that really benefit from that style. To piggyback off of the art style conversation, the rest of the game's presentation is pretty solid. The retro style music really worked for me, and the sound effects have that crunchy God of War sound to them. And the menus will be instantly recognizable to fans that played the Norse games. You got your skill tree, gear, lore book that looks pulled straight out of God of War 2018 and Ragnarok. Now you're probably wondering how the game feels to play, and this is kind of where the game falls apart for me. It has similar systems to the modern God of War games, but it feels way too stiff. The gameplay definitely matches the retro art style, as the combat doesn't really feel snappy enough, especially when you're facing multiple enemies at once. Sons of Sparta is a Metroidvania, and it plays like the most run-of-the-mill Metroidvania, meaning it starts off slow, where Kratos has a bare-bones arsenal, and the more you play, the more abilities and gear you'll unlock or find, allowing you to enter previously unattainable areas and deal with the more difficult enemies and bosses. The gameplay definitely gets better the more you play the game. Combat becomes more dynamic and fun, but I don't really think it becomes all that much better. You gain more movement abilities to traverse the environment with ease. God of War has never been about platforming, but if you're making a God of War Metroidvania, then you're gonna need to make platforming a more important part of the game. I could only recall a few platforming sections here. Besides the double jump and wall climbing, there's really nothing here. Now, I mentioned earlier that the sound effects have a crunchiness to them. It doesn't really translate to the visual side of the game. The God of War series is known for being brutal and bloody, and that's not really that present here. It feels a little too tame for my liking. The biggest letdown with this game is with its performance. I encountered numerous bugs that seriously hurt my experience playing. One of your tools is the Lycurgus Bust, which can be used to solve various puzzles. It allows Kratos and Deimos to communicate with each other when separated. For the entire game, the audio for Deimos when talking via the bust was completely muted. I was constantly missing dialogue lines from Deimos, and they communicate through this method throughout the entire game.
Is that you?
I was still able to read the subtitles, but it was easy to not notice until Kratos responded. I lost hours of progress due to a bug affecting saves. There's also a bug where Deimos will suddenly stop attacking during boss fights, leaving you to take on the boss by yourself. Most of the bosses have mechanics where you rely on Deimos to deal with one part of the fight while you focus on another part, but this bug forces you to deal with both at the same time. It just became increasingly frustrating and disappointing that it kept happening. God of War is arguably PlayStation's flagship franchise, and I expected this game to be properly optimized at launch. Why shadow drop a game that clearly wasn't ready for showtime? So overall, I'm having a hard time recommending this game. Bugs aside, I don't think this game is doing anything unique or special for the Metroidvania genre, and it doesn't really add anything super important to the God of War franchise. God of War Sons of Sparta is a disappointing swing and a miss. PlayStation, in the words of Kratos, don't be sorry, be better.